The year is 1945. The date, April 30th. Adolf Hitler surrounds himself with friends, Nazi officials, and his wife, Eva Braun, in a bunker below Berlin, Germany. Allied forces surround the bunker, and rather than face trial at the hands of the Allies, Adolf Hitler chooses death, specifically death by suicide. Or so we thought. After the war, the Russians claimed that Hitler was not actually dead. They stated that they did not find him or his body in the bunker. Why would they state this? This matter of confusion has left historians wondering about the question for many years. Later on, they would claim to have had his body all along, but cremated it. An alleged skull piece of Hitler was found and kept in a museum, but this was later proved to not be Hitler's skull.
Back in the dying days of World War II, Hitler supposedly committed suicide, and for years the Russians claimed to have the skull of the Nazi leader. However, after examining the skull, Dr. Bellatoni found that the skull was not that of Hitler, but of a woman. Mr. Bellatoni, thanks for taking time to speak about this subject.
You're welcome. I love to be here.
And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my job as state archaeologist has many responsibilities, but mostly I just review I'm the head of the archaeological sites in Connecticut. I just review stuff like that.
What drew you to decide to investigate the skull that the Russians claim to have?
Well, the producers of the History Channel were doing a bit on Hitler, like a little movie, and they asked if I would be their leading scientist. That's why I investigated the skull.
Now, certainly Hitler is an interesting and infamous character. What would be the purpose in finding and examining the skull?
The project entailed trying to understand what exactly happened in April and May of 1945 in Berlin. Much of what really happened has been kept a secret by the US and Russian governments, so we had an opportunity to investigate a small part of that story. It's very important to investigate history and to understand something about Hitler's history.
Now, in your interview with CBC, you mentioned that you had heard the Russians had Hitler's dental records. How have you made progress in getting the other data that might help locate the skull?
Well, Russians actually haven't been very cooperative with that. I haven't actually seen the actual dental records. We know that Hitler had pretty bad teeth, like he needed bridge work, but the Russians have not been cooperative, and I have not been able to see the dental records that are supposedly there.
What kind of test did you use to determine the identity of the skull? And was the process long or short?
Well, as I mentioned before, I conducted an examination of gross morphology. Basically, I looked at the skull and looked at what it looked like and compared it to what Hitler would probably have looked like, his skull anyway. I found that, once again, the skull did not match that of a 56-year-old male. But really, it could have still have been him. What really pushed the point home was a DNA test that I conducted. It found that it was not actually that of Hitler, but that of a random female person. It could have been Eva Braun, but it was much more likely that it was one of the staff at hand.
Now, what was it like to hold what the whole world thought was Hitler's skull?
Well, at first it was rather exciting and emotional to think that I held the remains of one of the most infamous people in the world. However, in examinations of the cranial vault fragment, which is the skull fragment that we had, I quickly realized that my expectations of what Hitler's skull should look like were not met. The vault fragment appeared to be too small and fragile for that of an adult male, even if it was one that was 56 years old. Whenever I realized that it wasn't his, I'm not sure what I felt. It wasn't really excitement or surprise. I kind of expected it, knowing the Russians.
will you do if you ever find the real skull of Hitler?
Well, we'll never truly find the remains of Hitler. You see, the Russians cremated what we thought was him, and that turned out to be a woman. So we actually have no evidence of where Hitler went. In fact, it's probably safe to presume that he might be alive.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bellatoni, for this interesting conversation about
You're welcome.
Hitler. Thanks for having this candid conversation with me and my readers.
If what we have shown you so far has not convinced you, then what we are about to show you definitely will. At around 2010, the FBI accidentally declassified a document stating that Adolf Hitler actually survived and fled to Argentina. Since then, the FBI has yet to actually comment on whether or not it was true, but they also have not commented on whether or not it was fake. This proves that Adolf Hitler not only survived, but also fled to Argentina, and this is a source from our very own, the U.S. government. The following is never-before-seen footage captured by inside reporters in the Argentinian jungle, where Hitler can be seen to have descended into a feral beast. Argentina has long been a Nazi safe haven. Argentina and Germany were friends before and during World War II, and many Nazi officials fled to Argentina after the war. Many of these officials were also found and captured by U.S. officials after the war. Why is it so questionable that Hitler would be among these officials that fled to Argentina after the war? Many pictures show that Hitler actually survived World War II, one of which is him surviving to the ripe old age of 70, as we can see here. Another picture here shows that Hitler survived only to find a new lover after he divorced Eva Braun. Listen to this woman regale her story of how she witnessed Hitler within her very own village after World War II in Argentina.
I'm here today with Simone, a woman who claims to have personally seen Adolf Hitler living in her village in Argentina.
Yes, that's me.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, ma'am?
Well, I'm originally from Poland, but I moved to Argentina when Hitler came to power. I've been living here for about 10 years when I saw him, Adolf Hitler, living in my village.
So you really did see Hitler?
Well, yes, I know it was him. I saw his face before. He was everywhere in Poland when I was younger. I know it was him. He was there in my village. He was right there. What was he doing there in Argentina? I moved there to get away from him, and he was there.
I'm gonna have to ask you to hold your horses, ma'am.
Where's all this stuff coming from anyways?
That's all the time we have for today.
Historians have long believed that on the night of April 30th, 1945, Hitler killed himself and his wife in his bunker. However, over the past few minutes, we have shown unrefutable evidence that suggests otherwise. Hitler did not die in his bunker. Rather, he survived and lived on until he died in Argentina with his Argentinian lover. If you are experiencing symptoms of high heart rate, sweating, and panic, don't be afraid, as this is simply symptoms of finding out the truth. One truth out of many that are out there.